consider in giving their final ruling on the review case were rejected. The NDC reacted angrily that they are disappointed. Other issues have had to do with the late application of the late fresh applications by the NDC, sometimes 24 hours before the court's next sitting. And you remember the EC and the NDC, NPP MPs particularly, said that they thought or they think that the NDC is adopting strategies just to delay the court process. That has also been denied. But the fact is that many of these things have generated controversies. Yesterday, there was another one. The NDC had wanted to file a supplementary application, and that was also rejected. We'll be going into this to play back some of the proceedings in court and the reaction by the NDC and NPP lawyers in particular. And then we'll speak to today's guest. He's a private legal practitioner. He's called Eric Delano Alifo. He'll be joining us shortly, and then we'll also be taking you live to the Supreme Court premises where Wisdom Hedejome will be giving us updates on the scene around the court and who is appearing today to have the privilege of listening to the judges right from the Supreme Court room. Remember, yesterday the panel of judges had 2 more in addition, which made it 9 before the review of the case that had to do with the supplementaries, the interrogatories. When we come back after acknowledging our sponsors, I'll give you much more before we go to the Supreme Court.
The average human body mass should have at least 60% water for optimal performance in any physical or mental exercise. We can help you maintain it naturally. X Natural Mineral Water. Simply natural. Peace of mind is very essential in your journey to success. For Akwesi Papa, peace of mind means having a proper covering over his family. Literally. For Araba, aka Injection Mama, it's about having the funds to complete her advanced nursing course. And as for Corporal Odami, it's as simple as reporting on time for his shifts. Sometimes all you need is a simple push. At Needs Microfinance, we have tailor-made loan packages for salaried workers under the Controller General's Department. With the low interest rate and quick wahala-free process, you are guaranteed of a timely solution to get back that peace of mind, literally in 30 minutes. Needs Microfinance. Growing with you.
Welcome to AutoCheck Vehicle Diagnostic and Licensing Center.
I hear my car can be checked here without going to so many hour crap.
Sure.
Check, auto checks, check, auto checks, check.
Emission, check.
Check, auto checks.
Alignment, check.
Brakes, check. Visit AutoChecks at Koforodia Aquadome Road for the roadworthiness of your vehicle, from saloon cars to heavy-duty industrial vehicles. Madam, your car is now ready for the road.
Thank you so much.
Auto checks.
Auto checks. Check.
AutoChecks. Your safety, our priority.
Check, auto checks.
Welcome back. This is our live coverage of the election petition case, and as we speak, we know that the main case is expected to start today. We know the Electoral Commission will be represented by Jean Mensah, the EC chair, as a witness. The NPP is presenting Peter McMenu, is a well-respected politician. He was NPP's 2020 campaign chairman. He has been a former national chairman of the NPP. The NDC is going to be represented by Pesa White, who is a former CEO of the National Service Secretariat, and then Johnson Asiedu Nketia, who is the general secretary of the NDC. On your shot, as we speak, library videos of the previous proceedings. So you saw the EC chair, Jean Mensah, just walking into the courtroom, and then you see John Dramani Mahama. I see other aides around John Mahama and his lawyers also walking in. These are videos of the previous appearances. As we speak this morning, we know from the indication we are getting that Johnson Asiedu Nketia is likely to be among the first to be speaking in court as witnesses. And then this morning, we also know that the judges will set the record straight with regards to how they expect these proceedings to be like. Even before I walk you through what happened yesterday, the reasoning of the Supreme Court review panel, the arguments raised by the NDC, complaints they put across the nation or in the form of a press conference. I'll be playing back some of them. But I just want us to remind ourselves that COVID-19 is real. As we speak, we understand that 13 new deaths have been recorded. 13 more people have died. We also know that the Ghana Health Service is saying there is an average of 600 fresh cases every day. So it's almost getting to the stage when all of us were scared and government was compelled to issue an executive instrument which was passed by Parliament, and many of us had to stay at home under what we call the lockdown. Under the lockdown, you and I will agree that many Ghanaians suffered. Even those who have all the money, who don't care about what happens but can stock their homes with all they need, were also complaining because it affects movement of people and we're not as free as we should be. Beyond that, it affected a lot of businesses. That is where we are getting to. We understand that at the Komfo-Anokye Teaching Hospital, for example, there are about 22 children on admission as we speak. About 3 of them have died. We also know that the total case count as we speak is about 3,940. And then we also know that 98 of the COVID-19 patients are in severe condition. And then a total of about 35 of the patients are in critical condition. And if they tell you somebody is in a critical condition at the hospital, I have seen it before, they are at the point of death. It's between God and the effort of the medical practitioners, and if they have the resources, then those people can survive. And so it is not that easy, as many of 35 compared to 30 new cases of deaths and a total case count of 399 people who have died. And so I can only advise you that take it serious, acknowledge the COVID-19 protocols, and let us protect ourselves and save our economy, which is already under crisis. Now, back to the Supreme Court election petition case. I told you earlier that today we understand that the main trial will begin. So the pre-trial and all the gymnastics are over. What Ghanaians are interested in is how proceedings will be like. Fortunately, all of us have the privilege, and TVXYZ, Wizard TV, will be giving you the opportunity to watch proceedings live. But what has generated the interest, the suspicions, all the antics that people expect to happen in court, especially during the cross-examination, have been influenced by what we have witnessed so far. Arguments raised especially by Chachuchi Kata, and the press conferences by lead counsel for the NPP, lead counsel for the NDC. I'll be walking back to the TV set right now, and I want to share with you some of the arguments raised yesterday with reference to the supplementary application. And then I also share with you the reasoning of the Supreme Court review panel. And so stay with me. I'll walk to my screen, and I'll share with you what you need to do. But before that, watch. Let's listen to Chachuchi Kata and one of the concerns he raised. This concern has to do with the fact that while the Supreme Court has the right to do what it has or it's obliged to put before the public in the form of trial, which should happen within 42 days according to the CI that is governing the petition. Rushing through the case can also be injurious to all the actors involved. Let's listen to him while I get ready to share with you the application in court yesterday.
Only one person in the world can answer.
Mr. Chikata, why wouldn't you limit?
I'm sorry?
Why wouldn't you limit your references to the EC to the office, the chairperson, rather than the personality? Well, it seems to me that your attack is against the personality of the person and not the office. So we'll be happy if you just limit it to the chairperson.
Well, respectfully,
because in her absence, any of the deputies, anybody at all could step in.
Respectfully, my lords, there is only one returning officer for the presidential elections.
And that is the
that returning officer is not the EC. That returning officer is the chairperson of the Electoral Commission.
And that chairperson, that's all. We are not
the chairperson has a name. I'm not able to mention the name of the chairperson. No, my lord, respectfully, I want to understand. Am I being prohibited from mentioning the name of the chairperson? Is that the issue?
Reading through your petition,
yes,
as to the instant application, the constant emphasis on the name. What I'm telling you is that we'll be satisfied just with the designation, because in her absence, any of the deputies could act in that position.
My lord.
So if it is an election petition and you are challenging the election of the president, it is sufficient that the institution charged with the responsibility of conducting that election had that
and the particular circumstances that we are dealing with in this case do not make it possible to have the situation that you are envisaging, where somebody else steps in for the chairperson. Respectfully, the Constitution makes the chairperson and only that chairperson the returning officer. And in the circumstances of this case, that chairperson happened to be the person that we refer to in the petition. And that chairperson actually was the person who undertook her responsibilities in accordance with the various constitutional and legal provisions that we have. So, my lord, we do not mention her name by way of targeting an individual. That is very far from it. My lord, when I cited before you a decision of the Supreme Court, and I cited the decision of Justice Badegbe as an individual judge, he read a unanimous decision of the whole court. I did not target Mr. Justice Badegbe when I mentioned his name, because he happened to read that judgment, which was a unanimous decision of the court. And equally, I do not target Mrs. Jean Adukoye-Mensah when I say that she made the declaration on the 9th of December. It's not a targeting, it's just a fact that is.
And so you heard lawyer Chachu Chikata, and we are going to witness a lot of arguments in court, because many people are interested in who comes in as a witness in this very important case, and then what are going to be the questions. Now the NDC says it is still not happy because its interrogatories could not go through because the Supreme Court ruled against it. And many people are asking, will those questions be relevant when the cross-examination starts And will the NDC have the opportunity to ask them? And are those interrogatories really relevant questions or irrelevant questions based on the facts or the claims made by the petitioner in this 2020 case against the presidential result? Now, another thing is, how are the lawyers for the NPP going to react in terms of the concerns raised by the NDC? Don't forget that the NPP and the Electoral Commission insist that what the NDC doing is just gymnastics attempted at misleading its supporters, because John Mahama has lost the elections and there's nothing in the petition. It's just empty. It should be thrown out. And so they are going to make strong arguments to diffuse all the claims made by the NDC in their petition. One important thing is that if you read through the witness statement by Peter McMenu, the chairman of the NPP, he said, for example, that some of the mistakes the NDC refers to are just insignificant and cannot be compared to the over 500,000 votes in terms of vote margins and the around 6,000 plus votes that they want to refer to with regards to the allegations made by the NDC. But there are issues about vote pardon. There are issues about conflict of interest. All these will pan out. But let's look at the screen behind me, and I'm sure it will pop up boldly on your TV set if you are watching us. And for those of us following us live on TVXYZ and Waves TV on Facebook, I just want to tell you that these are just a preparatory conversations we are having ahead of the live coverage of proceedings later this morning. And Wisdom Hedejoma is at the Supreme Court. Will be sharing with us the scenes around who is appearing, and perhaps if you can have a hint about how the proceedings will be like. Lawyer Alexander Chumberema will also join us on the line. And I've told you, Lawyer Alifo will be joining us. He's a private legal practitioner in the studio for this discussion. Now, the supplementary application, yesterday we had all the argument. We have tried to summarize it, and I'll put it before you as we all read through together. It says, the application sought to replace paragraph 28 of the original statement of the case and file a supplement to the statement of case. Now, the NDC's argument, according to some of the lawyers I've listened to, is that because they were anticipating that the court ruling would give them the opportunity to go through with the interrogatories, those responses would have informed the witness statement they would have put together. So this supplementary application sought to take care of some of them. Now, paragraph 28 of the petitioner's initial review document states, among others, that there is no reference in Rule 69C4 of CI 99 to amendments, and it's rather 69A6, which provides as follows, and I read, in the proposed new paragraph, it rather quotes 68.7 instead of the 69A6 as earlier quoted. Now, the lead counsel for the petitioner, and I'm trying to read the summary we have put together, Chachichikata earlier in court outlined series of cases where the court allowed for supplementary statements of cases in both the review and appeal applications. I'll go ahead to read more of this, but don't forget that yesterday the review of this particular case had two more judges who were added to make 9 in all. I'll share with you the names of some of these judges, but let's go ahead. It says, and I read, the application sought to replace paragraph 28 of the original statement. I think I've gone through this. There are others that I would have to add. Now, while we are going through this, I want us to speak to one or two of the lawyers. And then don't also forget that the NDC and the MPP always address the media after the proceedings. Yesterday, Lawyer Frank Davis spoke, and then Marietta Brew-Upon also spoke. She raised a number of concerns, and I wanted to go through some of the concerns she raised before the press call, which was around the Supreme Court. I'll be sharing that with you shortly, but let's go through the conversation this morning, and then I'll be speaking to Lawyer Alexander Chumberema. I'm told he's on the line. If he can hear me. Good morning, lawyer. Okay, I'm told we've lost the line. So at this stage, what I'll do is I want us to listen to the two lawyers. Lawyer Frank Davis represents the NPP. Let's listen to him.
Since then, we have
extension, the
filed
whole of the
an
Ghanaian
application for stay of proceedings, which is scheduled to be heard today.
Well, after
So our understanding,
all the fanfare,
proceedings
the
is
hue and
that
cry,
you don't file
the back and
the
forth,
processes ordered by
justices of the Supreme Court have handed 2 decisive rulings this morning all through the afternoon. The first ruling, which was a unanimous decision of 9 justices to 0. The application by petitioner, applicant, for leave to replace portions of the statement of case, to file additional grounds, and to supplement their statement of case was roundly dismissed, 9-0. Now, the review application itself suffered a similar dismissal, 9-0. So for my friends on the other side who are interested in the number of goals scored, it's now 18 goals to none. 9 justices plus 9 is 18. So we are leading 18-0 for today. Now, I was listening to what my friends, petitioners legal team, were saying to you a while ago. You see, when we come to court, we are guided by procedure. It is not what you decide to do in court. It is the procedure of the court which governs proceedings in that court. My good friend Marietta Brew upon Apia, who was the Attorney General of the Republic. So is my other very good friend, Dr. Dominic Ayeni, who was the Deputy Attorney General. It was in their time as leaders of the bar when the CI 99 was drafted and passed into law. I think it's unfortunate for Marietta to stand before you and make those comments that she makes. The law is not about what you want. It is about what you will get. And this business of they talking about fair hearing and all that, in one of the authorities that their lead counsel, Mr. Tajikaka, quoted, it was stated quite clearly there that speedy hearing is synonymous to fair hearing. So I don't know what this fetish it is about expedition being sacrificed for justice. In the case that he himself, Tajikata, quoted, it was speedy hearing is fair hearing. And I don't really get the complaint. When you come to court and your mind, with all due respect, is jaundiced, that you should expect a certain ruling from the court. That is what is occasioning you when the ruling goes against you. In the courtroom, I heard my sister Marietta also saying that their lead counsel preferred superior arguments. Really? Superior arguments. Indeed, if the arguments were superior, 9 justices will not find that argument not superior. So that position they are canvassing is neither here nor there. In any event.
And so, Davis, I've told you that after proceedings every day, we'll hear the lawyers, will bring you their press conferences or press briefings live. And there he was justifying why the Supreme Court has ruled in a certain way. I believe that the NDC also have their reasons to disagree with the ruling. I'll be playing Marietta Briopon's soundbite or reaction shortly, but I want to help us to look at what went into the reasoning of the Supreme Court judges, that the review panel. Remember, there are 9. I have the list of all the 9. I'll be sharing that with you shortly, but let me read. It says, and don't forget that these are excerpts of the ruling. It says, we have considered the submissions canvassed for and in opposition for this application. We notice that this application before this court is brought under the inherent jurisdiction of the court to file additional grounds for review and replace paragraph 28 of the original statement of the case and to file a supplement to the statement of the case. The application, which was argued before us, is not sanctioned by any provisions in CI 16, specifically from rules 54 to 60 of the Supreme Court rule CI 16 of 1996. In law and by the settled practice of this court, it should be noted that review and appeals are conceptually different, and the rules governing the application in either of them are very distinct, and this court has in several cases exhibited remarkable consistency. All the other cases referred to by the counsel for the applicant are based on original jurisdictions and civil appeals. So that is the reasoning of the court, and I will continue to share with you the other aspects of the ruling so that we can hear them. But I want to read the remaining part of the reasoning before we listen to Marietta Brew. Upon says the Tamaklo case does not in any way discuss the grant of the application for the relief sought before us, and I'm referring to the review panel. In civil appeals, the original jurisdiction matters before this court. There are express provisions to grant the relief sought in this application, and the court may in appropriate cases grant such applications in the interest of delivering justice under Rule 15 of Sub-Rule 11 and 51 of CI 96 of 1990, CI 16 of 1996. To grant this application would be tantamount to expanding the scope of jurisdiction of review, which jurisdiction is not provided under this court by the rules. We find that our inherent jurisdiction cannot be invoked under the circumstances of the case when the rules of the court have made clear provisions in the exercise of our jurisdiction in this matter. We accordingly dismiss the application. Plenty English, plenty legal jargons. I don't understand. We listen to Frank Davis, they understand, and they gave their reasoning why they think that the Supreme Court review panel was fair in their decision. Now, the NDC was represented by the former Attorney General yesterday, and let us listen to her first.
You heard the superior arguments of our counsel on the matter. Our counsel presented authorities, several of them, in which the court in the past has actually granted leave to applicants before the court to file supplementary statements of case. Our application was refused. Now, it's unfortunate that these rulings that are coming out of the court are so short. In the past, especially in 2013, we had detailed, reasoned rulings on why applications were either granted or refused. That has not happened this time. Now, when you examine or when you listen to the ruling of the court, the only reason they give is that the rules do not allow for it. So if the rules do not allow for it, why has it been permitted in the past? And so we think that the petitioner is not being treated fairly in these circumstances. And it's unfortunate, but we have to say it as it is. The petitioner is not being treated fairly. Now, counsel for the petitioner made reference to a specific case, Elistamaklo, in which that related to an application for leave to file supplementary. Now, that particular case, they were allowed to file a supplementary statement of case. The Supreme Court claims that it's distinguishable from this one. We disagree, because we believe that the intent of filing these supplements is to aid the administration of justice. But it was refused. Now, a second application, which was actually the application for review, which we filed in respect of the ruling of 19th January, that refused our application for leave to serve interrogatories on the first respondent's chair, that is Jean Mensah. That application was also reviewed. You all heard the very superior arguments of our counsel. He said there were fundamental errors with the decision. The fundamental errors he listed were: one, the Supreme Court said the interrogatories were not relevant. How can the Supreme Court say that in the light of the questions that we had posed in the interrogatories? For example, issues of transparency. When did Jean Mensah, for example, discover that she had made errors? When did she discover that she had made errors? What was the process by which she corrected those errors? Who did she consult in correcting those errors? Did she consult the agents of the candidates? And you will see, if you've seen our witness statements, the kind of activities that took place that day, where they sent the agents of the petitioner to go and consult with the petitioner on an issue, only to turn around and declare the results. This is what a chairperson who's supposed to be impartial, not be actuated by bias, this is how she behaved that day. And it's in our witness statement. How can anyone say that those questions are not relevant? Secondly, there was also a fundamental error in relation to the refusal to apply Order 22 of CI 47. Now, you are all aware that Order 22 of CI 47 relates to interrogatories. In 2013, there were no rules on interrogatories in CI 16, and yet the then petitioner, Nana Akufo-Addo, was allowed to serve interrogatories on the respondents. Nothing has changed except the passage of CI 99. Again, there's nothing in CI 99 that says that.
So you were listening to the former Attorney General, and I'm sure all of us have heard the reason why the NDC is not happy with the review panel's ruling yesterday. We also know that two more were added. They are Justice Amadou Tanko and Justice Henrietta Mensah Bonsu. These were the two additional judges who joined the 7 for the review panel. So what we know is that the Chief Justice Enini Yabua himself was on it as a chair of the group that took a decision. Then Justice Yao Apo, Justice Samuel Mafo Sao, Justice Nene Amegache, Justice Professor Ni Ashi Korte. Then we have Justice Gertrude Tokonu, and then Justice Mariama Owusu. These are the 7 who will be sitting on the Supreme Court case. This morning, as I told you earlier, Eric Alifo is a private legal practitioner. Eric Delanyo Alifo has joined us in the studio. Eric, good morning.
Good morning. How are you doing?
Yeah, fine. It's been a while. I've followed your conversation from time to time. Because of COVID, we are trying to keep the social distance, and unfortunately, you have to wear your mask. Otherwise, you wear yours, and then you remove yours, and then I will wear mine. What I've told our viewers is that COVID is real. A lot of people are dying. The latest case count suggests that as many as 13 people died just recently. And then we also know that the Ghana Health Service is saying as many as 600 people are contracting the disease on a daily basis. And I'm sure you as a lawyer who is equally worried like me and every other Ghanaians should be, is not too happy about the trend of events. I don't know if briefly you can share with us the concern and advise the public, then we can delve into the Supreme Court issues.
Yeah, well, yes, I share the concern that COVID is still here. We've been hearing of increasing cases lately. And I think we took things for granted for some period now. But we are now hearing about very serious cases and people are passing on and all of that. And so I would wish to encourage all citizens to resort strictly to the protocols. And you wear a mask, wash your hand as often as possible, and sanitize your hands if you don't have water available to wash your hand readily. And stay away from crowds, and don't go out if you don't have to. And hopefully we shall sail through.
So this is TVXYZ, a morning update, and the focus now is on the Supreme Court. We've been able to hear some of the lawyers. We've shared with you the reasoning by the Supreme Court. We've also looked at some of the few issues that have been evolving around this particular case, challenging the presidential result. Lawyer, we'll be going to the court briefly to hear one of our reporters to share with us what is happening there. But so far, you've observed a lot of controversies coming out of how the arguments are ongoing. Yeah. We understand that the main trial will begin today. Is that what you're also picking?
Yes, that is what I'm picking also. And so it means that today we are expecting to see the very first witness in the witness box. And unlike previously where the witness will have to tell the court all of its evidence, what we call the chief examination in chief. This time around, the statement, what we call witness statement, has been filed. And so what the witness is actually going to say to court has already been filed, it's been written out and filed. And so all that his counsel will do is to ask him if he actually filed a witness statement. If he says yes, they will ask him, they will show it to him if that's a witness statement. And then they will ask him if he has anything else to add. If he doesn't have anything else to add, then it will be the 10-4. And if there's anything the counsel wants to say to him, they will do it as housekeeping. And then opponents will take over and cross-examine him.
Yeah, I started this morning's program by making reference to a few things that have been happening around the Supreme Court. And I'm making reference to the Supreme Court as an entity because whatever they do is now of interest to every Ghanaian. Either previous cases, how they were handled, references made, and how the panel of judges are responding to it, complaints by the NDC, positions held by the MPP, and so on. For those of us who are observing from afar, what should be our expectation as the case begins today?
If you are a keen observer of what has gone on so far, I think you should be really worried. That's what I would say. If you are one of those who wants to give benefit of doubt every time, then I would say that we should still have high expectations, high hopes. But if you are a very keen observer and you have seen what has transpired so far, and you would say that NDC has, President Mahama, the petitioner, has filed about 3 separate applications, all of them were dismissed, then you'll be worried. It doesn't matter where in the political
divide
you belong. Yes, you should really be worried because all of us are striving for fairness. We want the courts to be very neutral, very fair, very objective, and so you may be. I don't think that, because so far all the arguments we have seen in court were arguments that were coming from the petitioner side, arguing for applications it has made, and the opponents, the respondents, they just quickly would just oppose it. We just say we have opposed and then cite 1 or 2 authorities. So you see that most of the arguments that we are hearing, very compelling arguments, are coming from counsel for the petitioner. And so if all of these are dismissed and you are somebody who cares about fairness, then I believe that you may be worried. All the same, we still hope that the court, look, what we expect of our court is to be objective, to be very fair, and serve the interest of justice for all Ghanaians. And so we still have that hope, but people are worried.
So I'm here in the studio with Eric Delano Alifo. He's a private legal practitioner, and we are having a conversation ahead of the live feed on proceedings at the Supreme Court. Wisdom Hedejome is at the premises. He's joining us now to speak to us briefly, and then I'll come to you, Lawyer Alifo. Wisdom, good morning. Unfortunately, I kept Wisdom on the line for quite some while. They are trying to get him back. But Lawyer, at this stage, many of us will continue to assume the role of either ignorance or not well informed about how such cases go on. Yeah. Yesterday, before the review panel gave its ruling, the concern came that if the Supreme Court is operating, many people would anticipate that its previous actions will inform decisions that it will make today to ensure some sustenance or let people accept that there's some level of consistency in what they do. But you realize that at least over the last few days, there is that perception that some of the rulings may not necessarily be consistent with other previous rulings. Now, for the average person who does not understand how the Supreme Court in its own wisdom operates, how should such people handle such issues or react when they appear subsequently as the case has started?
Yeah, like I said earlier on, that the people should be worried. So people who are a bit enlightened about how these processes work, like you stated clearly, we call it precedent. You know, the courts are supposed to follow precedents. You know, we cannot just predict that the court will go in a particular way all the time. Well, because decisions have been made in similar cases, similar rulings have been made, and those are what we call authorities. And so we expect the court to follow those processes. So if the court, the Supreme Court, we normally say that they are the master of their own rules, and the Supreme Court actually, you know, all the lower courts are supposed to abide by the decision of the Supreme Court, whatever standard the Supreme Court lays in cases, in their rulings and judgments. All the courts that are lower are supposed to follow the same precedents, and that's why lawyers, whenever we are making our arguments or submissions in court, we cite decisions that were made by higher courts to the lower courts to follow. And the Supreme Court is also generally expected to follow such precedents that the court itself has established. But the Supreme Court can actually also depart from its own previous decisions, which is what we have seen many times. It's not very common because we say the law is in the bosom of the judges. They have made those decisions. Those decisions have become laws. So, and to guide lawyers and for consistency, as you have said, they have to follow those decisions. So if I'm going to court and I'm making submission to the Supreme Court, I should be assured that there were decisions that were made in similar matters, and this is how they have ruled. And so I should have that confidence that they are going to follow that. Unless there are exceptional circumstances for which they will not follow that, for which they will want to depart. But in recent times, we have seen them consistently depart from their own decisions.
That is where the controversy is, and for the purpose of public education, I believe that anybody goes to an institution for redress based on past cases and how they were handled.
Yes.
That is when a lawyer can say that you have a case because we have seen related cases and how they were handled.
Yeah.
And therefore the lawyer will lead you to a court, in this case, any court,
yes,
to file a petition and subsequently expect that it will be judiciously addressed.
Yes.
But where we have these controversies, conflict of decisions, I'm using it advisedly, because if there's supposed to be consistency and there is a public perception that that level of consistency that should guide any activity, i.e. the hearings, then it will suggest that you don't even know, and anybody can decide that, well, this is the trend, but it is otherwise. And therefore the question is, how then do you conclude that a certain decision has fairly handled the concerns raised?
Yeah, yes. The question is very legitimate, and like I said, you see, but at least one thing Ghanaians should maybe be happy about is that these things do not happen in other cases as much as it's happening in a high-profile political matters like this. So the problem is, I have always said that the courts behave differently in political matters. That is my problem, because all other matters, the courts are not doing generally badly. They follow the precedents. In a few cases where they have to depart, they depart. But in the political matters, and of course, because we are divided, between MDC and NPP, and so people have become so partisan, and we don't want the court to become partisan as well. But people are reading partisanship into the decisions of the courts, and people are doing that, and then others seek to tell people that don't read partisanship into the decisions of the court, don't think the courts are partisan. But you see, you can't just tell people not to do that. We have to see it from the actions of the court, from the conduct of the court, from the decisions that are coming from the court. That is what is going to determine what people will think. And so I think there's a cause for worry. There's a cause for worry, and especially in these political matters, high-profile political matters, especially when it comes to issues between MPP and NDC and all of that. And I just hope that the court will live beyond reproach. They would act in a way that all of us should have confidence in them. In fact, I'm a lawyer. I'm not supposed to say that I don't have confidence in the courts. But so far in these political matters, I don't think I'm very happy with the kind of decisions that are coming from the court.
So lawyer Eric Alifo is a private legal practitioner. He's here with me in the studio. The conversation is on the Supreme Court case, the election petition case challenging the presidential results. And at this particular moment, we have tried to look at previous incidents, the arguments in court, decisions by the court, the relevance of some of the questions raised. Now, the EC and the NPP have been consistently saying that, look, the truth is that the NDC doesn't have a case. And so the Supreme Court is, the time of the Supreme Court is just being wasted. And therefore, all the complaints by the NDC lawyers are just gimmicks. And there's nothing. And therefore, the public must be informed. I'll be taking your response on some of these arguments that come up often. But let's go to the Supreme Court. Wisdom, Hede Jome is standing by. Wisdom, good morning. Unfortunately, Wisdom is off the line, but I'll try the last time. If we fail to get him, then perhaps we may have to give up. But you can also join this conversation by sending us your concern or your opinion or advice or recommendation or anything of interest to this conversation. The number is 020-866-7000, 020-866-7000. Send us text messages via WhatsApp. We'll read them as they come in. But lawyer, I was making reference to how some of these things are going, and particularly the conversation on social media, the conversation on news portals have always been around issues raised by the NDC and how they were handled. Yeah. So Supreme Court has thrown away this, Supreme Court has done this, Chajikata is complaining this way, NDC lawyers are saying so. But the other side of the argument comes from the Electoral Commission, which is virtually represented by the position of the MPP, because the two of them are on the same page. Yeah. And so if EC is not hurriedly going to the media to express their side or their own assessment of rulings or conversations in court, the NPP does so. And we assume that since all of them are on the same page, whatever NPP lawyers are saying may be reflective of the reasoning of the NPP lawyers. Yeah. But they have a simple position. Mm-hmm. You don't have a case. Yeah. And so don't waste our time. Mm-hmm. You can complain, but the fact is you are just making mistakes. I'm told Wisdom is on the line. I don't want to lose him this time. Wisdom, good morning and thanks again in this attempt to get you.
Good morning, Eric. I'm told you've been struggling to connect to me.
Thank you. Yes, Wisdom, quickly before we lose you again, tell us what's the atmosphere around court and who has come in so far?
So far, the running mate of the NDC in the 2020 election, Professor Jinano Pokwajiman, has arrived. So as the national organizer of the NDC, Joshua Akamba, understand General Secretary is around, is yet to make entry into the courtroom. The Information Minister designate has also come from the second respondent side. We've also seen some military personnel around as usual, who are wrecking the environment ahead of the arrival of the EC chairperson and some other officials from the Electoral Commission. And so the lawyers as well from the three sides have all also entered the court premises, and we're expecting some other dignitaries to come in as well. And so basically that's what's happening right now.
Peking, we know that the main case will begin today, and we have already had some hints that Johnson Asedun Ketia will be in the witness box. So what else have you been picking from your colleague journalists, from some of the lawyers who are eavesdropping information about how proceedings are likely to be like today?
And so what I'm told this morning is that, like you already mentioned, the main trial is starting today with the petitioner bringing in his two witnesses, that's the General Secretary of the NDC, Johnson Asidun Ketia, and then Dr. Pester White. But it is still not clear as to who will mount the docket yet, who mounts the docket first, as well as going to be the General Secretary or the Dr. Pester White. But we are taking lead that it's possible that Johnson Asidun Ketia will be the one to mount the docket first, and that there's a likelihood that the former president himself, John Mahama, will be in court today to witness proceedings, especially when his witnesses will be testifying before the court. We're still taking lead that he may come to court this morning, and then the processes will continue. And so we expect that at 10 a.m. when the court sits, all of these individuals will be present to help hear the case has been expected, because the trial period and then the case management period have all elapsed, and then today is the crux of the matter as we're beginning the hearing proper, if you want to put it that way. So it's today that we expect that the witnesses will mount the docket and then start the court case proper.
Okay, Wisdom, so before you go, we've always been asking, we had an idea about how the security operatives want to position themselves around the premises. Yesterday, you said they are taking the backside of the Supreme Court to avoid unnecessary attention. Is it the same today? Have you seen anything unusual?
No, it's still the same thing today. Today, as always been the case, they position the water cannon at the entrance of the court premises. And then if you enter the yard, you see the military men standing at vantage points within the premises. But this time, you don't see them wielding guns. They are just, positioning themselves around. And then the police also have taken the backstage of the court premises. But then if you enter the premises, you see one of them, 1, 2, 3 of them positioned at vantage points. And once you enter, you lose sight of them. The positions they have taken, you definitely see them.
Thank you very much. Wisdom Hedejoma is one of our reporters who has been going to the Supreme Court to give us some details about what has been happening. We're talking about the concerns raised by the lawyers on the other side, because the NDC has gone to court. So most of the conversation will be about what they have to present to the public, the evidence they have to justify the argument that Nana Akufo-Addo did not win more than 50% of the votes. The concerns raised about pink sheets. I've seen the witness statement by Johnson Asidun Ketia, and attached to that witness statement are some of the pink sheets which have figures NDC is disputing. But before Wisdom joined us, I was making reference to MPP's position and why Ghanaians must equally show interest in what they claim the NDC intends to do.
Yeah, well, the MPP position, MPP is the one NDC is battling right now in court, yes. And so, of course, they cannot come out and say NDC has a case, because then it would mean that they are defeated already. And so they have to fight. And so I don't think that people should necessarily take their comments to be what is happening in court, actually. So, yeah, and again, the challenge is against the Electoral Commission, which is the first respondent. And then the beneficiary of the wrong declaration the first respondent has made is the second respondent, is the president. And that is why they both are on the same side. So whatever the victory NDC is going to get from the first respondent, which is Electoral Commission, is going to affect the second respondent, which is the president. That's the president that was declared as a winner from the election. So they have one voice. And that is why whatever NDC is doing together, in fact, some people may even think that perhaps they put their heads together to file their defense similar response to the petition. So actually, but again, before even the petitioner would go to court, there was a debate. I know there was a debate among NDC lawyers and supporters at the grassroots level and party executives as to whether they would have justice in the courts. And so, and because of the debate, and then I believe there was a view of some people in the debate that, well, just go to court and put up your case. Let the whole world see the case. they will listen to you, and then they will know whether you have a case or not. Because the reason why some people were apprehensive of going to court was because they were not too sure whether the court will rule in favor of us, and they think that from past rulings, past judgments involving NDC.
But some will say those may still remain perceptions, because we have the privilege of watching proceedings live.
Yeah.
And the interrogations that will go along the line, the arguments in court, the objections that will be raised, the rulings by the Supreme Court, either to uphold or overrule or allow the lawyers to go ahead, either through cross-examination or you call it examination in chief. Is that how you call it? If I'm cross-examining my own witness, how do
you are not cross-examining him. You are leading him to give evidence. That's
you are leading him to give in evidence. Sorry, but we are all learning.
Yes.
Now, many people are saying, why don't you allow the judges to do their own thing and allow the rest to be their own integrity, conscience, what they anticipate to be the public perception about what they are doing, and allow faith to help us to appreciate the final judgment. But it looks like there's a group of people in Ghana who have already formed that opinion that there's every reason for us to be suspicious, and therefore every act or every decision that is taken as we move along, somebody has reason to complain. Is that really not a justified concern by those on the other side?
You know, if you are a party in court, and a party, if you have a case in court, or you are even a lawyer in court, and they make a ruling against you, you complain, especially if you have so much confidence in your case, you think you have a solid case, and they rule against you, you complain. So there's nothing wrong with that at all. But what I was driving at earlier was that because of the perception, you see, perceptions can be real. Perceptions, that's why the word perception is there. They can point to facts and reality. So the fact that there was that perception, and the fact that there was this debate as to whether NDC will have justice in court, that was the reason why it was very important. And then the people, I believe, the school of thought that said, well, just go to court and the whole world will see what you are presenting in court. And that's why it's important that NDC has to come out always to speak to the public, and it happens everywhere. In fact, in developed jurisdictions, if you go to US and the
daily briefings are done.
Yes, so that is why it is very important that whenever they go to court, whatever they present in court, they have to come out and tell the public, this is what we presented in court today. This is how the court ruled. We disagree with it or we agree with it. There's nothing wrong with that. Now, from that, I believe that people who are discerning enough and are following proceedings religiously will be able to tell whether...
So they'll be able to make their own deductions.
Yes.
I'll be sharing with you the reliefs being sought by the petitioner, but I called for some text messages. You can send us by WhatsApp 020-866-7000, 020-866-7000. This one says, hi, good morning, keep up the good work. I think Delano Alifo is actually Eric Delano Alifo. He's a private legal practitioner. We think that he's just being frank. All our eyes are on the Supreme Court. This one is coming from Felix. This text message says, hi XYZ, we are setting it all. What we are seeing is clear that the court is not independent. Former president just continues demonstrating the corruption in government. Well, I'm sure you are trying to suggest that the demonstration must continue. It's just unfortunate that even at this early stage, people are harboring their own suspicions. But in my personal opinion, these suspicions perhaps are good. They are healthy. Then it puts the Supreme Court judges on their toes. I don't know if this comment is appropriate.
Yeah, well, you know, like I said, you cannot force people not to have suspicions, because it's coming out of what we are seeing, the conduct of the court. And so if you can't say that because I have a wrong suspicion, I have done anything wrong, or I should be castigated. Point is that I can suspect anything I want to suspect. But people who are acting have to act in a way to disprove
you wrong.
Yes. So
okay.
Yes.
All right. This text message says, "Good morning. I want President Mahama to clarify how he's going to legalize Okada if he should win." This is an old text message. This one says, "If it is possible that the international court can be consulted, then the NDC should take action by transferring the case to the international court." Evelyn from Dodowa sent this. I know it's inappropriate at this stage. It's too early, and I don't even know whether the international court would want to adjudicate in the case involving elections in a different country?
No, they don't have the jurisdiction to do that. We can. I think the International Criminal Court, they have jurisdiction if there are issues of genocide, and 8 people were killed during these elections.
Sure.
And then the pressure is on the government to do something about it. They are not doing anything about it. But I believe it's early days yet. I think that we have to put a lot of pressure on the government of the day to do something about that. If a case like that, perhaps we may explore whether it could be taken out of Ghana in case our government is not doing anything about it, because but the election petition, election adjudication of elections, no. The only way I believe the international community, and not a court, but we know we have the United Nations, we have the AU, ECOWAS and all of that. The only way they may get into situations like this is if they see that there's no peace in the country as a result of the manipulations in the elections. If they think that there may be conflict, there may be mayhem, and all of they are concerned about that because they always want to ensure that there's peace everywhere. And so, but if all of us are very comfortable with what is going on and everybody folds their arms, I don't think they would want to meddle.
Well, let me take advantage to acknowledge our sponsors, X Natural Mineral Water. I have the bottles with me. This one in particular looks quite very well packaged. It can comfortably fit into the bag of your child if she or he is going to school, especially the toddlers. Very, very portable. I'm sure if you are interested, you can follow the crawler on our screens from time to time, and you get to where you can get them in bulk purchases. This is another brand of X Natural Mineral Water. Very rich, naturally packaged, and I'm sure if you get it for any function, birthdays, you can use it for corporate events, you can use it for your offices. I believe that I can only recommend that when you have these, you will get a lot of people telling you that it's just appropriate. If your mother is 80 years, 70 years, 90 years, 100 years, you have given birth to a fresh baby. Imagine at the adoring, you have these packaged for them to not be bad. So just keep watching our dial, keep watching our frequency, TVXYZ on digital TV channel, on satellite TV platforms, on other digital platforms. I'm told Ago TV, for example. Sorry, is it Go TV? Sorry for that. Go TV. You can get us on one of their channels. So just keep following us on TVXYZ. Ways or TV is also available on Facebook. And very shortly, we're crossing over to the Supreme Court to bring you live proceedings. I'm here with lawyer Eric Delano Alifo. He's a private legal practitioner, and we are having a conversation on issues that have happened so far. Now, let me walk us through the reliefs being sought by the NDC. Among them, they are saying that the EC Chair Jean Mensah's declaration on December 9, 2020 was in breach of Article 63.3 of the 1992 Constitution, that based on data contained in the declaration, no candidate satisfied the requirement of the stated article to be declared as president-elect, that the declarations the declaration is unconstitutional, null and void, and of no effect whatsoever, and an order annulling the declaration of the president-elect instrument 2020 CI 135 dated 9th December 2020 issued under the hand of the EC Chair, an order that an injunction restraining Nana Akufo-Addo from holding himself as president, and an order of mandatory injunction directing the EC to conduct a rerun of the election, which he, Mahama, and Nana Akufo-Addo are candidates. Now, these are some of the reliefs being sought. One, I've seen arguments already during the pre-trial as to whether EC's declaration on December 9 and the corrections that were made were privy to the agents of the political parties, and the fact that if they were actually contacted and what role they made. I've seen arguments in the form of an application which I don't know has been accepted for copies of the pink sheets that EC used. I've seen a statement issued by the NDC cautioning its agents across the country that woe betide them if they are influenced to sign any other pink sheet. The suspicion arising from that statement is that perhaps EC doesn't have, or EC may want to present other other pink sheets other than what the political parties already have, and therefore the ones that they are coming out with may be the ones they want people to use fictitious means to sign and present them in court and use them against the NDC. Whichever the way they are, these are all suspicions. Now, if you look at the reliefs being sought and these things that are unfolding, many people will say, based on the laws the Supreme Court, NPP lawyers, Chachuchikata and co are quoting, all of them are quoting from the same laws we have. And all of them are saying what we are quoting are still statements we can use to back our argument, and for which reason we are good to go with what we are saying. For us as individuals, we are confused and we don't know who is really telling the truth and who is misleading us, or who has already made up his mind and is only wasting our time.
Yeah, so far what has happened in court regarding the applications that have been made, I think that they are more about legal issues than just the facts of what happened on December 7th and December 9th. And then 10th, there's a subsequent corrections that were made to the declaration of 9th December. So they are happening in court, and the Supreme Court is ruling over those issues. So I don't think that ordinary people and or laymen, as we lawyers put it, laymen can make much fuss about that as of now, because these are not facts. But when the facts begin to come, and that is scheduled to happen today, when our Honorable General Secretary speaks, and again I explained already that I don't know how it's going to go, but in the past the practice was to tell the court your evidence in chief, tell the court all your story, the reason why you have come to court. But right now those things have already been filed, and so all that his counsel is going to do is to ask him whether he has indeed filed his witness statement, and if he says yes, they'll ask him if he stands by it, and then they'll begin to cross-examine him. So maybe through the cross-examination, people will begin to see the facts, because I know he's very good at putting his case properly before the court, and so people will begin to get a story. Because basically what the petitioner is saying is that the declaration that was made on the 9th of December was unconstitutional, because the requirement of the Constitution, Article 63 or so, says that a candidate that will be pronounced as president-elect must obtain 50%, more than 50% of the votes.
Plus one. The usual 50 plus one.
Plus one, or 50, yeah, more than 50% of the votes. So if NDC is saying, if the petitioner is saying that nobody, and in fact, and the declaration, let's remember that the declaration was made once, and it was on the 9th. So the 9th declaration has to stand out. You have to pick it up and then let everybody see that this is the declaration that was made on the 9th. These are the numbers, these are the figures that were given. And this was the president that was mentioned as being the president-elect, and this is what the president obtained. So if that, look, it's just mathematics. If you can calculate all those figures and ascertain that the president has got 50% plus, then of course the president has won. But if the president doesn't get that, then the declaration on the 9th is unconstitutional.
I'll come back to you. Lawyer Eric Delano Alifo is Eric Delano Alifo.
That's correct.
It's a private legal practitioner. He's in the studio with me this morning. We went to the Supreme Court. We are told that the NDC vice presidential candidate, the running mate to John Mahama, Professor Nana Jenopokwajima, was in court. It's already in court. NDC National Chairman Samuel Ofusampofo, I'm told, is here to appear. National Organizer Joshua Kamba is there. I'm told Johnson Asedun Ketia, who we expect to be in the witness box later this morning, is also there. The MPP lawyers are there. Frank Davis and his team are there. We are also told that the EC lawyers are also present. We are actually waiting for the panel of judges to resume their seats, and then we go straight to the Supreme Court to bring you live proceedings. Now, some more text messages. This one is from somebody who didn't add it. Hi, Mr. Eric, can the NDC move the case to ICJ? I think that's been answered. It's inappropriate at this time. I don't think it's acceptable. Now, Musa Abatwa in Kumasi. Musa, good morning. I follow you on other platforms. He says, good morning, Eric. Clearly, there are a lot of political sentiments in our legal system. Hence, fairness and justice is becoming expensive commodity, especially the apex court. You claimed some questions irrelevant in the case before but in another breath, you said you can be asked during the cross-examination. Was CI 99 bar was CI-99 bars interrogatories, or I think I want to edit some of the text. It said, "Does CI-99 bar interrogatories being served to the respondents?" No. Was Akufo-Addo allowed to serve respondents in respect to the same case in 2012? Yes. Why is it being disallowed now? The decision is making us lose interest in seeking justice at the apex court. This is from Musa Abatwa. Another text message here is from Kofi Judulali Danku. Kofi Judulali. Yes. I also eat akplan and okra soup, but unfortunately I'm struggling for Jidulali. That is the victor. The victor, or yes, the victor is around. Yes, kind of something like that. Jidulali. Good morning. Good morning, XYZ. Please, can you read for me the CI that they are talking about? In this case, Samuel Kofi Judulali Danku is asking. I will ask the lawyer in subsequent conversations to find out if he can provide. He says the CI that they are referring to in some of their rulings. I don't know which of the CIs, but if you can send it back again and be specific, I believe that they can help us to answer that one. This one is from Frank, from King Hassan in Zabzugu. Eric, I think the case at the Supreme Court is already predetermined by the judges. What is good for the goose is good for the gander. Yes, you can be suspicious, but I just want to say let's be measured in running with our conclusions and wait till the proceedings are over. I believe that as the lawyers begin to interrogate the witnesses and how the Supreme Court will be seen to be adjudicating in the objections raised and otherwise, you can then begin to form your opinion. But for now, I will advise that let's keep watching, because we have the privilege of watching proceedings live. Our democracy is suffering, and it seems those whose hands have been entrusted in our justice system can save our democracy. Salam from Domi. This message is also coming from somebody calling himself, I think, Francis, no other name. I don't know where you're calling from, but sending this text message from. This one says, "Good morning, Mr. and I'm Francis. I want to ask the reason why the Supreme Court is not accepting the question to be asked by Chachu. They should allow the EC to answer the questions, then we can see who is winning the election." I think we are told that the EC obviously will be cross-examined. Yes, definitely. Right. Yes. They are going to be cross-examined. The interrogatories that were not accepted may come up eventually, isn't it? Yes, but so why should I be worried if I'm Chachu? Better? Yes, but before then, you see, I heard you advising listeners and our audience that they should just take your time and watch. They have watched enough already to make conclusions. I would disagree with you that you are telling them that, well, they should monitor how the case is going to go. The people should not jump to conclusions because somebody said that it appeared to him that the case was predetermined and all of that. Look, they have watched enough to make conclusions. I wouldn't tell anybody not to make conclusions. People can, like I said earlier, people can suspect whatever they want to suspect based on what they have seen so far. So for me, if what you have seen so far, I am worried. So people are worried. I will not tell them not to be worried. They have to, and the court, if they are listening and people are listening, they should see that people are getting worried, and if people are getting worried, then they have to sit up. But if they keep telling us even at this point that, oh, don't worry, people are worried. We have seen. I agree with you perfectly. Yes, but I also have a certain responsibility. Mine is to ensure that we all have the same orientation as we go into monitoring proceedings in court. And so while I agree that anybody can be worried because of what has happened, I am personally worried about a few things I've observed. That's why some of them have come in the way of questions to lawyers who have appeared on this program. I don't have anything about it. I'm also equally worried that, as we saw in the US, there was a certain president called Donald Trump. When he lost the elections, he said he had won. Donald Trump started calling for things that must be done. He went to court, but the institutions stood the test of time. Even at the time he was being impeached, you could clearly see that this was an America which had so much confidence in institutions, and the institutions were demonstrating enough for the public and the world at large to realize that even if America's democracy has been dented in terms of the image and all the things that happened, including the attack on Capitol Hill, you realize that the institutions have demonstrated to the world that, look, America's democracy is strong, and those institutions can still assure the people that trust us and Donald Trump could have done whatever he wanted to do, but he will suffer the consequences. And we also saw how he exited disgracefully. We are in another part of the world, and similar things are happening, and people have every reason to raise the suspicions you have spoken about. I am saying that let them continue to raise the suspicions, but drawing conclusions even ahead of the main case and the way it will end, they should relax and let's observe. When we are getting closer to the end, they will join others of the same mindset to conclude. So that is where I have a little departure from.
You said you have a responsibility to do that and to advise your audience. I don't think I have any such responsibility. What I can tell people is to make their own judgment, and if they want to make conclusions based on what they are seeing so far, they should feel free and express it. I'm not going to tell anybody that, look, just keep waiting and keep seeing things going wrong and still keep waiting, keep giving benefit of that until finally they slap you in the face. I'm not calling for anything actually. I'm only saying that people should think whatever they want to think based on what they have seen so far. And I am worried with what I've seen so far. And if others are worried, they should be worried. They have the right to be worried or not to be worried, and they have the right to express same. So my point is that people have seen enough. There are applications. In fact, the applications they leave for interrogatories, for instance, that was dismissed. You see, it was nobody can understand why something like that would be dismissed. These are simple questions they want them to ask. In fact, even if and then for the fact only because you want to expedite, the case has to move quickly. And so you deny fair hearing to a party that is asking. Look, some of these things, in fact, even if a court, I'm not saying this court is necessarily biased, that is for all of us to look at and judge if that's the conclusion we are all coming to. But even if a court wants to be biased, in reality, there are certain applications you can grant which will just give resemblance of being objective. And this should be one of them, because I don't really see why a court will reject these interrogatories. And they rejected it. And if people are saying that they have rejected this, there was a review, you rejected a review application, they wanted a supplementary affidavit to support the application for the review, is rejected, and so people are making conclusion that, well, with all this, I think that this case is not going to go well. I'm not going to tell the person that, no, don't worry, you just...
So at this stage, and as he spoke, what came to mind was what became a mantra after former U.S. President Barack Obama's visit to Ghana, when he said institutions must be strong, let's nurture them, let's grow them, and so on. We know that what people are doing at the moment is like a whip system. They are sending signals to all parties involved that we are clearly observing. We are equally monitoring what is happening, irrespective of the fact that we may not be lawyers. We can make our own deductions. Now, I am asking if the international community, for example, should be interested in what is happening in court and should show their presence in the courtrooms to make everybody aware that, look, they also have an investment in Ghana to protect, and therefore, while they are going to help Ghana grow as a democracy, they want to make sure that their first-hand information on whatever we are doing as a people.
Yes, obviously the international community will be interested in the ultimate decision and what will happen subsequently. They will be. I'm not too sure if their presence in court is going to change anything very much. So that is not what I would call for. And
the presence in court, you follow the case religiously.
Well, yeah, well,
they may be doing it. That's what you want.
Yes, because there are press conferences, there are tidbits, news briefs about what is going on, and then the final judgment would come and all of that. They can, and I believe they probably even have the processes that have been filed, the petitions and all of that. Those that are interested may even have copies of all of those already. So yeah, they would be interested in the ultimate decision. They cannot tell the court to behave in a particular way.
No, that one they cannot.
Yes, they cannot. So and the school of thought that said we had to petitioner had to go to court necessarily. They had this belief that because the television cameras are going to be there, the whole world is going to watch and all of that, and so that would make it difficult for the court to be biased. I don't know if we are realizing that in a way. I don't know.
I'll come to you. I'm told that the court is about starting proceedings. And so I want to run through a few more text messages, and then we take some concluding remarks before we join them. This one says, yeah, good morning, Eric. NDC is becoming too slow in doing things. In fact, our leaders are killing us slowly, and they should be careful. This is Alaji Sani from English Amafro. This one says, Eric, what should an individual do if one decides to sponsor in their own small way? Nyako inside Abuase in Wasa East. I mean sponsoring of XYZ. Oh, sorry. I'll call you after the show, and I will give you more information about where we need. And don't forget, we have X natural mineral water. I've been showing you the bottles, very, very compact, good for all kinds of events, corporate events. You can order them for your offices. Then we'll be supplying you daily. We can give you the contacts. We are proud that they are there. If you want to sponsor this program, just call us, and I will link you to those in charge, and they will give you a very comfortable package to give us the support to run our shows, especially to help give you the real side of things that are happening in this country. Because there are times when you hear people complaining that we have not had enough, or what perhaps is happening. We don't think those who must be telling us are being as frank and sincere in bringing out the issues. We can tell you that we will do so. The court, I'm told, is just starting, and therefore one more text message before I wrap up. This one is saying, is from Walanyo Prosper in Bogoso. Good morning, sir. Thanks very much for your teachings this morning. I hope the NDC will surely come out victorious by the end of the day. So, I'm told the court is sitting. Okay. I just want us to relax. Eric Delanyo Alifo is a private legal practitioner. He's going to be with us for some few minutes. Let's witness proceedings. If it is not going to drag, then Eric will be with us. But if it's going to drag, let's say beyond the next 2 hours, we'll leave it here and stay glued to TVXYZ and Wizard TV on Facebook.
My lords, with me are my colleagues Frank Davis, Kweku Esofi, and Yao Pong.
My lords, our first witness is ready. We have indicated that depending on the response to the request to admit facts, there may be a supplementary statement from him. I don't know whether your lordships want us to make a formal application for that supplementary statement, or whether based on our indication in the statement, in the witness statement that is filed, once we confirm the status of the request to admit facts, that will be taken as granted, because I mean, I just want to be clear, so we are guided appropriately. I'm sorry?
We want to take the witness first.
Very well.
Bible. I
I, Johnson Asiedu Nketia,
do in the name of Almighty God swear.
Do in the name of the Almighty God swear.
That the evidence I shall give.
That the evidence I shall give.
In this case.
In this case.
Shall be the truth.
Shall be the truth.
The whole truth.
The whole truth.
And nothing but the truth.
And nothing but the truth.
So help me God.
So help me God.
I lost SOB in English.
My lords, I believe the procedure, since it's not expressly provided in CI 99, I believe the procedure is as provided in CI 47 in respect of witness statements being. I just needed to be clear, maybe. So we're getting a copy of, a file copy of the witness statement. Yes, so that we can, all we have filed. I'm sorry.
He did not tender the witness statement. He just identified and then we adopt it as his evidence in chief, and then cross-examination will follow.
Yes.
Just so that we are not caught by time, we have objections to certain parts of the witness statement, and we would apply to the court to have those parts struck out as not relevant nor based on the pleadings of the petitioner, or otherwise scandalous and prejudices unfairly.
Mr. Kotuampa, the witness is here to identify the witness statement. So just wait.
I'm just serving the court with notice, because it is sometimes assumed that if you keep quiet and you tender it in, then you are caught.
Mr. Kotuampa, we don't tender evidence. So when it comes to the box and he relies on it, after he has been sworn, he relies on it, then it becomes evidence. Then if you have any objection, you can raise it. Yes. As it is now, it is not evidence before us.
Please give your full name to the court.
I'm Johnson Asiedu Nketia.
And you have filed a witness statement on behalf of the petitioner.
Yes, my lord.
Can you identify what the deputy registrar has made available to you and confirm that it is the witness statement that you have filed?
Yes, my lord. This is a witness statement that I have filed.
Well, we wish to tender that witness statement, or it's taken, it's adopted by the, yeah, very well, very well. That's the procedure.
Yes, my lords, as I've said, we are objecting to certain paragraphs or parts of some of the paragraphs in the witness statement of Mr. Johnson Asiedu Nketia on the ground that they are not based on the pleadings. 2, they are not. They tend to unduly prejudice some of the parties to this suit and are scandalous, and accordingly we would pray that those paragraphs or parts of those paragraphs be struck out as such. Yes.
The grounds of objection. The first one was that it was not based on the pleadings.
Yes.
And the second one, unduly prejudicial and scandalous.
Yes.
Yes. What is the third one? The third ground. Scandalous.
Yes.
Oh, okay.
My lords, I believe that it's well established that a party's evidence.
But could you identify the paragraphs first?
Very well, very well. My lords, we are referring to paragraphs 21, I have it. Yes, Valerie.
You have set out 3 grounds. Which of those 3 grounds is applicable to paragraph 21? What I'm asking you to do is tell us your ground of objection within the 3 before you start your argument, so we can follow you.
Hold on, people. My lady, paragraph my lady, paragraph 21 is not pleaded. There's nothing in the pleadings to that effect. Yes. The pleadings, this evidence that they're seeking to lead is not borne out by the pleadings, my lady.
It's not based on.
It's not based on.
Okay.
My lords, we also object to.
Do you mean the reference to the website in that paragraph?
It says moving and changing and subsequently deleted. These are very material facts. If they sought to rely upon it, they should have pleaded it. My lords, we also wish to take objection to paragraphs 6 and 7 as completely out of place. Out of place in the evidence in chief.
What does that mean? What does being out of place?
It's not admissible, my lord, because it's not admissible because it was not part of their pleadings. Their lawyer may raise that matter before the court in address, but this cannot be part of their evidence.
Paragraph 7 or
6 and 7.
My lords, we also take objection to that portion of paragraph 25, which starts on page 6 of their witness statement. Thus, the first respondent, in respect of the declaration of presidential election, betrayed the determination on the part of Mrs. Jean Adukwe Mensah as returning officer for the presidential election, and certain officials of first respondent to have second respondent installed as president of Ghana by hook or crook. And Lords, we think that this is highly prejudicial and scandalous. There's no pleading that can support this type of scandalous and prejudicial piece of evidence, and we pray that it is struck out on those grounds. My Lord,
Agutuampa.
Yes,
so we are clear. Is it the sentence starting from page 5? In fact,
yes.
So it starts from page 5.
Yes, you are right.
Ends at
page 2. Yes, it starts from page 5. Yeah. Relax. That writing. My Lords, our next objection relates to paragraph 26 from the sentence that reads, the chairperson of first respondent, Mrs. Jane Adukwe Mensah, allowed herself to be biased by her prejudice in favor of second respondent, who appointed her in August 2018, and with whose wife, Ms. Jean Adukwe Mensah, has a close familiar relationship. Mrs. Mensah was thus at all material times in the conduct of her responsibilities biased by prejudice in favor of the second respondent and against the petitioner. My Lords, we pray that this part of paragraph 26 be expunged as scandalous, prejudicial, and not based on the pleadings. These are very serious material allegations of fact, and they were not pleaded.
Yes.
Well, the next part we take objection to relates to paragraph 28, which the portion reads, the secrecy and lack of transparency regarding figures thrown up by one or more officials of first respondent seeking to justify after the event Mrs. Jean Adukwe Mensah's 9 December 2020 purported declaration, and that undermines the whole attempt at correction of what was indisputably an error and in error-driven declaration, and shows, and my Lord, that's a critical passage, shows that figures were simply being cooked to achieve a predetermined outcome that had nothing to do with the actual votes cast in the presidential election
So does your objection start from the CPC or starts from simply being?
It starts from shows, but you can only understand the shows if you relate to what comes before.
From
but the specific objection relates to the showing that the figures were simply being cooked. In other words, we say that this portion of paragraph 28 is extremely prejudicial. No facts have been pleaded to that effect and ought to be struck out accordingly. My Lord, paragraph 30 of the witness statement. My Lord strangely seeks to suggest that the first respondent, because of his bias in favor of the second respondent, somehow.
Could you tell us what you are objecting to?
The whole of it. Yes, the whole of paragraph 30. My Lord, it seeks to suggest that the new regulations were organized by the first respondent with the object of ensuring that the process of collation and aggregation of votes were introduced without any good reason. My Lord is talking about a piece of legislation. My Lord, it is the witness may not speak to the legal validity of a piece of...
Mr. Kutampo, so is it your objection that it's not based on pleadings, or that it unduly prejudices, or it's scandalous? You've told
My Lord, it's not based on the pleadings, nor is it, and furthermore, it is unduly scandalous. And my Lord, our next objection. No, I don't want to do it. The next objection, my Lord, relate to paragraph 32. My Lords, this was not pleaded by the respondents, the petitioner, and my Lord, it relates to 275 summary sheets results. My Lord, nowhere in the petition has there been any reference to any 275 summary sheets. And the petitioner had all the opportunity to do so if he intended to rely on this evidence. In the trial. He failed to do so and is seeking through his witness statement to improperly introduce it through the back door. Should be, and we pray therefore that it be struck out. My lords, indeed, if your lordships take a look at the petitioner's amended petition, even exhibits were attached to the petition when they should not have been. And so they had every opportunity, even at the time of filing their petition, to follow that flawed tradition. But they didn't. And now, when they asked to write their witness statement, they introduced this huge piece of evidence which they hadn't pleaded. We ask that it be struck out as not based on the pleadings. And consequently, paragraph 33, which is a consequence of paragraph 32, should also, in similar fashion, be struck out. I hear you. My lords, as we've indicated, it is well established that a party's pleadings are fundamental in determining the case he or she intends to make during trial. A party's pleadings also notify the other side of the case that he will meet in court. My lords, the significance of pleadings have been set out very clearly in the case of Hammond and Odoi. 1982-83, 2 Ghana Law Report 215 at 1215 at 1235 to 1236. My lords, I know that this statement of the law is very well known to your lordships, so I will not detain you with reading it. My lords, I wish further to refer your lordships to the case of Adejumo versus Abegunde and another, reported in 1965 Ghana Law Report 499, 1965, my lords, Ghana Law Report 499. Which holds that a in holding 1. Well, this is the Supreme Court. Holding 1 to the effect, quote, although evidence is inadmissible to prove material facts which have not been pleaded, yet when such evidence is adduced at a trial without objection from counsel, the trial judge is bound to take it into consideration. My lords, we are making this objection so as not to fall into that trap. And my lords, we wish, in addition, to refer to the evidence decree. What's the evidence decree? Evidence Act now, my lords. Evidence Act. Section 51, my lords, which reads as follows: for purposes of this decree, relevant evidence means evidence including evidence relevant to the credibility of a witness or hearsay declarant, which makes the existence or non-existence of any fact that is of consequence to the determination of the action more or less probable than it will be without it. And sub 2 reads, all relevant evidence is admissible except otherwise provided by any enactment. And sub 3 states, no evidence is admissible except relevant evidence. And my lords,
I'm not clear what lessons you want us to draw from
my lord, I'll shortly demonstrate if I'm permitted. Section 52B states the court in its discretion may exclude evidence, relevant evidence, if the probative value of the evidence is substantially outweighed by the risk that the admission of the evidence will create substantial danger of unfair prejudice or substantial danger of confusing the issues. Now, my lords, the relevance of this piece of these provisions of the Evidence Act is that they confirm the position that any evidence that will be led must be based on the pleadings and be related to an issue in dispute. And that pleadings, evidence that spring from nowhere surprises the other party, and where they do cause, where they provide a danger of substantial or unfair prejudice, may be disallowed by the court. And that is why we believe it is relevant. My Lord, it is for these reasons my Lord, with all due respect, my attention has been drawn to paragraph 37 also. Yes, the last of any paragraph, where the witness states I quote, this conduct of certain officials of first respondent in padding the votes of second respondents is in fact indicative of a well-hatched and sustained pattern of manufacturing numbers unrelated to the actual votes collated at the various collation centers with the sole aim of achieving the predetermined goal of the chairperson of the first respondent and a number of officials of the first respondent to have second respondent unconstitutionally and unlawfully installed as president. My lords, this paragraph is extremely scandalous, and what makes it worse is that apart from the so-called 4,000 plus padding that they allege, and they have not provided any further evidence or made any further pleading, indicating that there's a well-hatched and sustained pattern of manufacturing numbers unrelated to the votes. There's nothing in either their petition or there's nothing in their petition to that effect. My lords, I think it is significant that whilst the petitioner has been making these really scandalous allegations, he has not provided one shred of evidence of his own tabulation of votes. Nothing throughout the petition, not even in the witness statement.
Mr. Kutuampa, you take advantage of that. Why are you worried?
No, my lord, I'm saying that to show how totally unacceptable paragraph 37 is, and it ought to be struck out.
Mr. Kutuampa,
yes.
Let me chip in. You see, the pleading is different from evidence.
Yes.
Pleadings can be struck out on the basis that it's scandalous. Yes. But this is evidence.
And my lord, if it cannot be struck out, it should not be admitted.
No, if a pleading is scandalous.
Yes.
Yes. It is a basis for striking out.
Very well.
Yes. But the evidence is quite different from a pleading. Except that the evidence takes its roots from the pleading.
Yes, my lord. And our case is that these pieces of evidence are not based on the pleadings.
No, but if you... Yes, you must know the basis of...
My lord, they are not based on the pleadings, and they should not be admissible. Being scandalous. My lord, we pray accordingly.
As to what is wrong with paragraph 6 and 7? Paragraph 6 and 7. Yes, what is wrong with that? This is a fact. Look at it carefully.
Yes.
Yeah, what is wrong with that?
My lord, our view is that those two paragraphs are not matters for his evidence in chief.
They are not matters of for evidence in chief.
Yes.
No. So assuming we are doing oral trial and the witness is in the box, can't counsel ask him whether in the course of this trial he's filed notice to admit? Can't counsel ask him?
My lord,
or whether in this trial he's filed interrogatories? Can he be asked?
My Lord, in the first place, we want to make the point that the witness is a witness. It's not a representative of the petitioner. He's a witness, my Lord. And if your lordships look at the witness statement, he doesn't indicate that he has a power of attorney and he's speaking on behalf of the petitioner. He is a simple witness of the petitioner.
To find out, when you led him, he said he was on behalf of the petitioner. So I was going to ask.
He's a witness. He's a witness.
He's a witness of the petitioner. Okay.
One statement. Yes, my Lord.
What is your view about this paragraph? Because my understanding of why we are here is that we are dealing with the validity of the election of a candidate. And when I look at the evidence, in 36 and 33, the witness just stated numbers, applications, 375 summaries, 30,000 and 30 million, 218, and that's it like that. How would that affect your case? When there's issue, you see, we are not dealing with the High Court trial. We are not in the High Court. We are in the Supreme Court exercising a special jurisdiction over the validity of election of a candidate. So you have to limit everything, your submissions and your cross-examination, to the validity of the election of the candidate and not a general trial in the High Court. So you're complaining about 32, 33. How would that affect your case, the validity of the election of the candidate? Has the witness made any assertion that because of that, votes and other things and whatnot? So you look at it, if there's nothing, let the trial proceed. Otherwise, we'll be going through this banter and we'll spend the whole time raising objections and this and that. So let's focus on why we are here.
My Lord, that is precisely what I'm trying to do. My point, my Lord, is that the petitioner in his petition has never said anything about summary sheets. Indeed, the petitioner in his petition, in our view, has not challenged the validity of the election. It has simply picked on some errors in the announcements and the tabulation of the results. He has not provided...
And in these two paragraphs, 32 and 33, the witness is also not saying anything about the validity of the election.
Yes.
So why not keep quiet over it? That's what I've been telling my students in advocacy lectures.
Yes, my Lord, we will not keep quiet over it because it could be prejudicial. It may cast an unnecessary cloud over the elections. It is not being pleaded, and my lords, I believe that they cannot lead evidence that is contrary to their pleadings.
Thank you.
But I want to know whether Mr. Minuvo has something to say about the witness statement. Yes, Justin.
Yes, my Lord. My Lord, I have nothing more to add to what Mr. Akotwampo has said. Thank you.
I associate myself with his submissions.
My lords, we have to deal, I believe, with a very practical issue before I get into the responses. Quite a lot of objections have been raised, more than 10, I believe. If it were a trial in which oral testimony was being given, in evidence in chief, there would be a series of objections at different points, and then one could take it up. And the practical difficulty I'm talking about is that as he was raising the objections, we were busy trying to deal with it. And we're frankly not, I should speak for myself, I'm frankly not sure that I have listed all the objections.
Mr. Chikata can help you.
So,
Mr. Chikata, we can help you.
Yes, very well.
We captured them all.
Yes, very well. So what I was going to say, my lords, is that as we proceed with the responses, we may need to come back to your lordships for the statement that you have recorded in respect of the objections, so that the answers will be appropriate in terms of what your record shows. That's what I meant by the practical solution to ensuring that we are addressing all the objections. But we're ready to respond to each of the objections, and guided by your record of the objection.
It appears the first objection, I hope you recorded the basis for the objection.
As I said, we're trying hard to record it.
No. I know that it's very difficult to get the very paragraphs he referred to. Yes, I'm talking of the grounds for the objections, which were one, that it was not based on the pleadings.
The two grounds that he said at the beginning. Yes,
thank you. Yes, the first one was in respect of paragraph 21. Paragraph 21. Then the second, we went back to paragraph 6 and 7.
Yes.
Yes. Then he went to paragraph 25. Paragraph 26.
25,
a portion, not the whole.
From
the latter part of paragraph 25. Yes. Yes. Then he went to paragraph 26. Then went to paragraph 28, paragraph 30, paragraph 32, paragraph 33, paragraph 37. Yes. Then I think that is all. That's all. That is all. Please, yes. Can I go over?
I have the paragraphs, but as I go on, the particular ground that he gave for each paragraph, I may ask for
no problem. No problem.
Yes, I have the paragraphs. All right. No. Yeah. Now, my lord, the first paragraph, and my lord, I start off with the fairly elementary statement of the law that pleadings are not meant to be evidence. And my lords, Rule 7 of Order 11 makes clear that subject to this rule and Rules 10 to 12, every pleading shall contain only a statement in a summary form of the material facts on which the party pleading relies for a claim or defense, but not the evidence by which those facts are to be proved. And the statement shall be as brief as the nature of the case admits. Now, my lords, that's fairly elementary and well-known rule. And if we take the various objections, paragraph 21 is that, and paragraph 21 follows paragraph 20. So if I may first refer to paragraph 20. In this unsigned press release, first respondent introduced new figures for the total valid votes cast in the presidential election held on 7th December 2020. A copy of the said press release is attached and marked as Exhibit B and was available on first respondent's website, www.ec.gov.gh, as of 11:45 GMT on 29. So even as late as just before the petition was filed, we were pointing out that that document was available. And paragraph 21 is making reference to the fact that following that press release, the results being published by first respondent on this website became moving targets. Now that's evidence in respect of what happened to the numbers that were provided for in paragraph that were mentioned, that were alluded to in paragraph 20. And becoming moving targets, subsequently deleted the changing figures from the website. That is material evidence that undermines the figures that were in that press release. Because there were figures in the press release, as we indicate, an unsigned press release that's, again, very clear. And subsequently, those were themselves being changed. I cannot see how this is immaterial. And my lords, particularly in a situation where the witness statement of the first respondent, that witness statement itself has different numbers from the numbers in the press release and the numbers in the declaration. My lords, I cannot, with the greatest respect, see how evidence about changing figures is not material in these proceedings.
Mr. Speaker, that is not the point. He said he says that this paragraph 21 has not been pleaded. It doesn't take its source from your pleadings. So perhaps if you look at your paragraph 28 and 29 of the petition,
yes,
you may be able to respond to it. The ground is that it has not been pleaded.
Let me just...
Yes, on the pleadings.
Yeah.
If you look at your paragraph 28 and 29, yes, so look, so that you can help it.
My lords, indeed, in our paragraphs 28 and 29 and 30 of the pleadings, we state on 10th December 2020, an unsigned press release of first respondent claimed that its chairperson, Mrs. Gina Dukwe-Mensah, had inadvertently, in quotation marks, used the figure of so-and-so. And then we continue in 29. In this purported corrective press release, first respondent introduced two completely new figures for the total votes cast in the presidential election. Thus, there was no correction properly so-called, since to be valid, a correction of a prior mistake must correctly name the mistake to be corrected. In this case, the mistake to be corrected was itself mistakenly stated. The numbers so-and-so are completely different. And then paragraph 30, in seeking to justify the new figure put forward in the press release, various adjustments to figures
of votes cast for various candidates are made without any explanation and with a total lack of transparency. That is pleaded. And then it goes on in paragraph, it goes on paragraph 31. I'm sorry.
So go to paragraphs 6 and 7.
Now, in paragraph 6 and 7, my lords, and your lordships will recall that in following your orders in terms of the filing of the witness statements, we actually drew attention to this issue of the request to admit facts, issues which normally would be part of the pre-trial and which therefore affect how we prepare our witness for the trial. So, my lords, the point of paragraph 6 and 7 is precisely to indicate to your lordships the parameters within which his evidence is are being placed, because those parameters are.
We are worried because you see, Mr. Esiedu Ketia is not the petitioner. He's not a party, strictly speaking. He's just a witness, as you rightly pointed out. So let's look at it in that.
Yes, but my lords, he is a witness of the petitioner, and as a witness of the petitioner,
he can smite everything in the proceedings.
He can, yes, he can. My lords,
as a witness,
he can swear to matters that are within his personal knowledge, and those matters include processes which he is aware of. I mean, those processes are in fact a matter of public record, literally.
Because you see, we don't want, sir, we don't want a situation where, under cross-examination, a question is put to him. Do you know anything about notice to admit?
My lord,
no, the situation you can write, because you see here, he is or not.
My lords, he
is or not.
And I'm sure that he will be able to take care of himself on oath.
No, we want to avoid a situation where maybe.
No, my lords, with respect,
we just want to streamline the way things should be done.
Yes, and my lords, respectfully, my lords, that's why I respectfully.
Let's move on, please. Let's move on.
In fact,
well, my lords, frankly, there is no difference in terms of these particular paragraphs, because the petitioner is not himself the lawyer filing those processes. The petitioner, yes, but the petitioner gives the instruction, and a witness of the petitioner, who is as aware as anybody else of those processes, can speak to those processes, because he's a witness of the petitioner, and as a witness of the petitioner, he familiarizes himself with processes that are filed. And in fact, more importantly, as a witness, and the point of those paragraphs is very clear, as a witness, he is indicating to the Honorable Court that I'm aware of these, and that is guiding what I have to put in my witness statement. That is part of the point. And my lord, and that is why, in fact, before he went into the witness box, I did draw your lordship's attention respectfully to the fact that we wanted guidance on whether we needed leave subsequently after those issues are resolved with the search that we're making. And your lordship said he should go into the witness box. So my lords, I have no doubt that the witness is able to address those issues in terms of his knowledge of the facts of what has been done on behalf of the petitioner. I have no doubt about that. In respect of paragraph 25,
in respect of paragraph 25, and again, paragraph 25 can only be read in conjunction with the prior paragraph. In announcing the various so-called corrections and corrections of corrections, no officer of first in any consultative process involving petitioner or his accredited agents, nor did Mrs. Jean Adukwe-Mensah, returning officer for the presidential election, or first respondent, notify petitioner or his agents that there was a reasonable basis to revise the figures as to the votes he, petitioner, and or second respondent obtained, much less give them an opportunity to observe or participate in the processes by which those revisions were purportedly effected. That is 24, to which no objection is raised. Then in 25, it goes on, this, referring back to what has just gone on, this was clearly contrary to the responsibilities the chairperson of the first respondent and first respondent as a whole had by virtue of Article 23 of the Constitution, which provides that, quote, administrative bodies and administrative officials shall act fairly and reasonably and comply with the requirements imposed by law, and persons aggrieved by the exercise of such acts and decisions shall have the right to seek redress before a court or other tribunal, unquote. In fact, the ever-changing figures put out in the unsigned press release and what was posted on the website of the first respondent in respect of the declaration of the presidential election betrayed the determination on the part of Mrs. Jean Adukwe-Mensah as returning officer for the presidential election and certain official or first respondent to have second respondent installed as president of Ghana on 7th January 2021 by hook or by crook. Now, my lords, in the pleadings, in paragraph 33, my lords, in fact, if I may start actually from paragraph 20 of the pleadings. I may even start from 19, because in 19 is the statement, first respondent and his chairperson, Mrs. Jean Adukwe-Mensah, are required in the conduct of their responsibilities in respect of elections to comply with the Constitution. Paragraph 20, in declaring second respondent as the winner of the 2020 presidential elections on 9th December 2020, the chairperson of first respondent, Mrs. Jean Adukwe-Mensah, acted in flagrant violation of the 1992 Constitution.
Mr. Chikata,
yes.
Could you hurry to where it is your pleading that she intended to install the second respondent by hook or crook, or where this evidence takes its roots from?
In paragraph 21, we say that first respondent, she was required to act fairly, reasonably, candidly, and not arbitrarily or capriciously. And then we go on in paragraph 24. We go on to point out that she was required not to be biased either by resentment, prejudice, or personal dislike, and also requires them to exercise discretionary power in accordance with due process of law. So we are pleading the fact that these were requirements placed on her and evidence to show that she did not comply with those requirements
is certainly available on the basis of those pleadings. And as I indicated, in relation to law and you then go on to draw the conclusion or to conjecture that he was determined to declare the second respondent as president by hook or crook. My lord, that is
just
my lord, that's not a conjecture. That's not a conjecture. If they want further and better particulars of it, of course they're entitled to ask for further, but it is not a conjecture. And we are saying that these are matters that are demonstrated in the various pieces of evidence, especially relating to ever-changing numbers on the website